The time for silence is over. There was once an unprecedented time in American history when common citizens of their day began to define the rights of man and documented how those rights were being violated by their current government. They wrote to each other. They debated with each other. Ultimately, it was these common citizens who recorded these rights for all eternity, and furthermore created a new and free nation founded on these rights with liberty and justice for all of its citizens. Times have changed, but these rights remain.
I don't take responsibility.
That all citizens have the right to life. That all citizens have the right to pursue happiness. That all citizens are created equal. That all citizens have the right to a public trial. That all citizens have the right to peacefully assemble. That all citizens have the right to petition their government. What happens when you try to exercise these rights today? Is this government honoring your rights? Or are they violating them? Is this the government that those citizens aspired to? There is a solution.
I don't take responsibility. I don't take responsibility. I don't take responsibility.
Join me every Sunday afternoon for a new show where common citizens, you and I together, discuss with each other issues of today, where we demand proof and evidence is required, where we seek the truth and will not be silent. Join me this coming Sunday afternoon and take part in America's oldest and most honored tradition. Hello and welcome to the Left Speaks. My name is Chris and I'm here to tell you the truth about the Arizona Audit. Today is June the 27th. We are 5 months, 21 days removed from the insurrection attempt at the Capitol, incited by former President Donald Trump, for which there have still been no consequences for the former president. The short version, and we will dive into a lot more detail as the show continues regarding the Arizona audit, is that this is the fourth company that Senate Republicans in the state of Arizona have hired to do an audit. This is the fourth audit, one of the companies they backed away from hiring. One of them they conducted themselves. All of the previous audits have shown zero problems. And we're now down to electing conspiracy theory loons, which will be provided with documented proof, to find the answer that Senate Republicans in the state of Arizona want desperately to exist. I didn't realize just how deep and how far this rabbit hole went until I started looking into it. And it's bad. The next step from here, we're basically at the point where if you were a psychiatric patient Doctors inside your hospital have told you what you're seeing isn't real. Doctors from other hospitals have told you what you're seeing isn't real. So now we're going to ask the fellow patients who are not on their medication for their opinion. Like I said, it's bad. So without further ado, we're just going to start diving straight into it. Dash Mickey, welcome as always. I appreciate you being here. Do credentials not matter when it comes to things like an audit? They did it first, which is what we'll get to. But when those credentialed companies didn't return the answer that QAnon nuts in the Senate GOP in Arizona wanted to hear, we just decided to hire another company, apparently. I'll run through these websites as quickly as possible. There's a lot of them because I wanted to do justice to these claims. So we'll start with a GOP overview. This is from the Washington Times. It's a conservative-leaning website. Democrats are worried the Arizona audit may uncover fraud. President Biden's Justice Department, Department of Justice, has concerns about the integrity of the Republican-led election audit in Arizona. The DOJ's concerns stem from the Arizona state Republicans using the outside firm Cyber Ninja, that's the name of the company conducting this audit, to conduct the audit. The Department of Justice is concerned that the audit is not happening in Maricopa County, the county in Arizona that they're auditing, where the records are no longer under the ultimate control of elections officials and are not being adequately safeguarded by the contractors and are at risk of loss or damage. We're going to dive more into Cyber Ninjas here in a few minutes. They're also concerned with Cyber Ninja's tactics. The firm has pledged to identify voter registrations that did not make sense and then knock on doors to confirm if valid voters actually lived at the stated address. So imagine some random company that you have never heard of, not from your state, knocking on your door and asking if you did indeed vote for President Trump or President Biden in the November 2020 election, as contracted by your state government. I can see some slight concerns with that. I would think that my sane Republican counterparts across the aisle would also have a problem with somebody knocking on their door, asking them if they indeed did live there, were registered to vote, and did vote on November the 4th. But not according to the Washington Times. All of this concern is absolute garbage. The real concern from Biden's Department of Justice is not with Cyber Ninja, but with the voting tabulations and errors it may find in Arizona's audit. In other words, we hadn't found shit yet. Best to raise suspicions about the firm's credibility midway through the recount, just in case the results are not in Mr. Biden's favor. So that is the best objection and the only real objection to objecting to this audit. The Biden administration, according to the Washington Times, isn't concerned that the ballots are safely stored. They are not concerned with voter intimidation, even though you might end up with random people knocking on your door that you don't know, asking if you live there and if you voted on November the 4th and who you voted for. No, all of those concerns are fake. They're really concerned that Cyber Ninja may find fraud, and that would cast doubt on President Biden's victory. All right. So, source 2. United States Election Assistance Commission, EAC.gov, federal government website. Okay. Basically, it's a list of resources for state, local, and federal election commissions to use to run elections, audit elections, everything related to elections. You can find it here. Okay. Accredited laboratories. I would think, personally, never been in the position, but I would think if I was going to audit an election, it would make sense to hire a company that is accredited to audit elections. Call me crazy, but I would want a company that, maybe had some experience in this, had some training in this, knew the machines that they were trying to audit to see if they had any problems with them, knew the legal requirements of what they could and could not do with ballots. Some standard here would make sense. So the companies that are accredited: NTS Huntsville, Pro V&V, SLL Compliance. That's it. Those are your 3. Across the country. So why wouldn't Arizona Senate Republicans, specifically the GOP leader of the Arizona Senate, who will come up again shortly, why wouldn't you start here? Why wouldn't you start with an accredited institution? Somebody that might know what the hell they're doing. Good question you ask. The short version is we did. SLL Compliance and Pro V&V, the only companies certified by the United States Election Assistance Commission to examine and certify the machines and software that were used in Maricopa County, didn't come back with the answer they wanted. They subjected the machines to batteries of tests. 2 different companies. The 2 that were certified, that knew what the hell they were doing when it came to auditing Dominion voting machines. Those tests searched for evidence that the machines had been connected to the internet, whether they sent or received any information during the election, whether their software had been altered since it was originally certified, or whether any malicious software, viruses, were installed. The machines then underwent logic and accuracy tests using test ballots from the November election to determine if they could have changed any votes on the ballots they counted. A test of 1.5 million ballot positions found 0 errors. Not 1.5 million ballots, but 1.5 million tabulations of different marks on the ballots by 2 different companies. The only 2 in the United States that are certified to test these damn Dominion machines in the first place, which is what Maricopa County uses. Well, let's go back to the next one. The original objection. Biden's Department of Justice is afraid of what these audits are going to unturn or show up. The Board of Supervisors voted unanimously to conduct the audits in January. That included Supervisor Steele Gallardo, the board's lone Democrat, begrudgingly supported these audits, saying the allegations about the election were lies and conspiracies, but he was okay with the audit by these two reputable, certified, qualified companies to calm people's fears and reassure them. The auditors examined all 9 of the county's central tabulators, all 4 workstations, and 2 servers used to operate the county's election management system. SLL Compliance and ProVNV ran multiple programs on the machine to search for malware or changes to the software installed. They compared the actual code to the code on file with federal election officials, concluding that there had been no changes. So the qualified companies found zilch, zero, nada, nothing when they tested the machines. No problems here. The Democrat that was on the board for Maricopa County was fine with running that audit. And shockingly, it returned no problems. Now, this is a board that has one Democrat. Everybody else is Arizona Republican. So it's not like the Democrats had this super secret thing in place to just check off and say that this was no problem. Hey, Ravana, welcome in. I'm sure the election ninjas or whatever it's called has no ill intent and is the most qualified for the job. I'm 100% sure you are being completely sarcastic because that statement is 100% wrong, but it's great to see you here. It's bad. It is. We're getting there. It is absolutely terrible. So the machines check out according to the 2 certified companies in the entire country that are qualified to do this. 2 competing certified companies. Maricopa County hired both of them. They both went through. They both tested the machines. They both compared the original code to the after code, after the election code that was on the machines. They both scanned the machines for viruses. They both ran test ballots through. 0 problems. Okay. Maricopa County Republicans didn't believe that. Aftershark, welcome in. I appreciate it. So where do we go next? What can you do after the 2 companies that are actually qualified to do this say that there's no issues here? I know. We'll do a hand count audit. We'll count the ballots by hand. Maricopa County, Arizona, general election, hand count audit report. Hand count began on Wednesday, November 4th at 6:08 p.m. We had Republicans, we had Democrats, and we had libertarians there to audit it. The selection order was chosen by lot. Republican Party went first, followed by the Libertarian Party, and then followed by the Democrats. Pulled 26 batches of ballots. 5,000 early ballots were audited. No discrepancies were found by the hand count audit boards. None. Zero. Zilch. Again, we can't find a problem here. So we've got the three competing parties in Arizona all watching each other to make sure nobody's cheating, randomly pulling ballots and auditing them by hand in Maricopa County. And when you shine the light of day on this and everybody can see what's going on, no problems. None. Not one. Zero. But remember, President Biden and his Department of Justice are afraid about what this new audit, because we're up to number 4 by now, might turn up. Ravana, I think we should let Trump do the audit. I think Trump would be more sane than the people they found. So remember, I said there was a company involved that ultimately didn't get selected. Senate President Karen Fann. Now we're talking about the Arizona State Senate here, okay? Not the federal Senate, not the United States Senate. The initial choice was a firm that produced a widely discredited report on voting in Michigan. Includes a Trump campaign associate with a well-documented history of spreading false and baseless claims about the 2020 election. Allied Security Operations Group was the name of the company. The company's audit team includes Phil Waldron, a retired United States Army colonel who testified as an expert for Trump campaign attorney Rudy Giuliani at hearings in Arizona and other states where President Donald Trump falsely claimed the election was rigged against him. So the first one they picked to do this, again, 4th audit, Allied Security Operations Group, has a CEO who had already testified in court that the election fraud was massive and widespread before having access to any of the machines, mind you, before having access to any of the ballots to confirm any of this stuff. He was already spreading this stuff everywhere. Not certified, not qualified. And I would think if you're already of the mind that the election was stolen and that fraud was everywhere, you're probably not going to do an audit with a very neutral point of view. But let's dive into Phil Waldron a little bit, because I want to be fair here. Phil Waldron is working on a movie.
You know, election night, you know, we saw what was happening. We watched it and go, okay, well, here we go. It's just, we wrote it. We'd actually sent a 2-page summary document to 2 individuals in the White House, the President's senior cybersecurity advisor and another individual who had direct access to President on October 19th and October 20th, and said, hey, we can help develop mitigation strategies. There are several that are feasible, acceptable, and suitable that will achieve the objective. And even if you don't, you know, back in the previous administration, Jay Johnson was the secretary at DHS. DHS was pinging around in local election systems and got caught, and so it was really like egg on their face. And so DHS and several folks, the attitude before the election were, well, that's a state's responsibility. And, I said, well, no, under the previous administration, the election systems for federal elections are deemed national critical infrastructure. So national critical infrastructure is the purview of DHS. DHS, if they don't have the capabilities, then there's other ways. They can request defense support from NSA. They can request DOD cyber assets from Cybercom. There's a lot of ways to skin the cat. You just have to recognize a problem and ask. And the intelligence community as a whole did not have their finger on the pulse. They weren't watching. Even after Christmas, we helped to write a 19-page document that would help refocus the national assets on, basically gave them the answer to the test. These are the IP addresses, these are physical addresses, these are the individuals. Look at this. If you want to give DNI Ratcliffe the answers that he is late on producing or due on December.
Obviously an unbiased, completely neutral gentleman to run the audit. I'll give him credit on his production value there, though. But notice not one piece of evidence in any of his speech. And he sent a 2-page memo to a couple people in the White House. Okay, well, I can send an email to the White House. I can write 2 pages. That doesn't mean I'm super secret connected into the Biden administration. And we can help him find the answers that you want. Doesn't really sound very neutral. But it gets worse than this. His movie is scheduled to be released whenever the audit comes back. So this audit, you can kind of view as a extended trailer to his movie. His movie is also not directed by him. He's not a movie director. So I thought it would be useful to take a look at this director's previous work, because it is rather relevant. Previous work was called Above Majestic.
Our differences worldwide would vanish if we were facing an alien threat from outside this world. And yet, I ask you, is not an alien force already among us?
The gravest error a thinking person can make is to believe that one particular version of history is absolute fact. History is recorded by a series of observers, none of whom are impartial.
RF-4 jets spotted and took photographs of a huge carving in the desert over 1,000 feet across.
No tire tracks and no footprints. The Germans had a settlement on the moon, they had a settlement on Mars, and they were doing this as early as 1939.
Between the age of 16 and 17 years old, I was transported to the moon, and after 20 years, I was age regressed back in time and then returned to civilian life.
Extraterrestrial spacecraft have appeared over nuclear missile installations and have completely powered them down.
We put together programs that went all the way out into the galaxy, not just this galaxy.
According to some estimates, we cannot track $2.3 trillion in transactions.
This money is going into underground military bases and secret space programs with technology far beyond what many of us could even realize. Everything we learn is designed to program our minds away from the truth.
So when I say he's tied into conspiracy theorists and is conspiratorial minded, I don't think I'm exaggerating. Part of Above Majestic's other claims are that aliens were responsible for September the 11th, 2001. Shockingly, the federal government did not go to Mr. Waldron and his movie director to investigate and find out the truth behind September the 11th. Hardwood and Sock, welcome in. No, it's not space lasers. This is the third company that the Arizona Senate Majority Leader, GOP of course, went to try and audit for the fourth time the Arizona election results. He's working on a movie about it, and this is his movie director's previous work. So, obviously, they decided not to go with ASOG, Allied Security Operations Group. There's a little bit too blatant of a bias there. So who did we end up going with? Cyber Ninjas. This is their website. I am not making this up. Whether it's from 1994 or not, I have no idea. But this is Cyber Ninjas. Services: ethical hacking, general consulting, training and education. I have been all over this website. I have been unable to find anything service related to auditing elections, auditing election machines. No previous experience in this. Company based out of Florida. But this is who Arizona ultimately ended up going with. The CEO of Cyber Ninja deleted his Twitter account, shockingly, because it blatantly advertises. This article very clearly articulates why I wholeheartedly support Trump. Retweeted. I'm tired of hearing people say there was no fraud. It happened, it's real, and people better get wise fast. Meanwhile, in the U.S., the parallels between the statistical analysis of Venezuela and this year's election are astonishing. I'm ashamed of how few Republicans are talking about it. Retweeted. After auditing the adjudicated ballots and corresponding audit marks, you may discover Trump got 200,000 more votes than previously reported in Arizona. That is also him retweeting somebody that is believed to be Q of QAnon, or at least have access to the account. Also retweeted a comment from Sidney Powell of Kraken fame. You know, the lawsuit that was going to prove all this massive multi-statewide conspiracy theory election fraud stuff, and who is currently in court saying that she shouldn't be sued for saying all of that stuff because no reasonable person would believe her statements were factual. So I think at this point, we have established that this gentleman is not exactly unbiased and neutral either. Furthermore, Cyber Ninjas is not certified, not accredited, and from all intents and purposes has zero freaking experience auditing any type of election or working with Dominion voting machines or auditing Dominion voting code, or they don't know what the hell they're doing. And the owner seems just a little bit to have already made up his mind. Hardwood and stock. I think it's going to be funny when they don't actually find anything. Brother, they've already done 3 audits and haven't found anything. The 2 companies in the country that are certified by the federal government to audit Dominion voting machines have already come in and each run their own audit. And then they did a hand count audit with the Libertarian Party, the Republican Party, and the Democratic Party all having reps there to count the votes by hand and found 0 errors. They compared the previous existing code that's on file for the Dominion voting machines to the code that came from the machines currently to make sure it hadn't been altered. Those match up. Both companies independently scanned the machines to see if there was any malware. That didn't show any problems. Both companies ran ballots through the machines again from the actual election. 1.5 million correct tabulations with 0 errors. Audit's been done. Audit's been done again. Audit's been done a 3rd time. Like I said, we're down to, we're not finding evidence of our conspiracy, so we're going to let the other crazy conspiracy theorists take a crack at it. Now, maybe Doug Logan, the CEO of Cyber Ninjas, maybe he's a sane guy who isn't conspiratorially minded, but just got wrapped up in this. The CEO of Florida-based firm chosen to conduct the review of Maricopa County election results appeared in a conspiracy theorist film riddled with falsehoods about the 2020 election and directed by the man whose previous work claimed aliens were behind 9/11. So he's involved in the film with the CEO of the previous company that was too nuts to do the election. This guy's in the same film being run by the same director. So when I say they're conspiracy minded, again, I don't think I'm being unfair here. If you think aliens did 9/11 and that the Nazis had a moon colony, you're no longer based in the same reality as me. But this is who the Arizona Senate leader, Republican, hired to do this election audit, this new election audit. Okay, so we're getting better. So what are they looking for and how are they doing it? I mean, if the conspiracy theorists want to look for fraud, okay. Lawyers for Cyber Ninjas, the Florida-based company that the Arizona Senate hired to lead a recount of 2.1 million general election ballots, are asking a judge to keep secret its procedures for the recount, shut out the public and the press from a hearing. So in terms of how they're going to audit this election, you don't get to know. You just got to trust us. We're looking for proof that the aliens that did 9/11 also did the election fraud in Arizona. No, wait, it's China this time, not the aliens. I'm sorry. That was not fair of me. Okay, so now we have a bunch of conspiracy theorists who are saying that they want to do the audit, and the Arizona GOP said, cool, we're right there with you, but you can't see what we're doing. You just got to take our word for it. And we wonder, the Washington Times, conservative media is wondering why Democrats might have a problem with these guys running an unsupervised audit. Oh, Chris, you're being unfair. You're being unfair, sir. They've got this up on a live stream. You can watch the whole thing yourself. You can see what they're doing. So I've looked at the live stream. I watched a little bit of the live stream. They're like CCTV security cameras stationed way back in the wall. So you can't see, like you can see people moving around. You can see computer screens. You can see, coffee cups. You can't really see what this says or what I'm writing down or what I'm doing. And this camera is 3 or 4 feet from me. It's not posted across the building, zoomed out to cover the entire building. Hardwood and sock. I wish I could take over the Republican Party. Brother, I feel like there are some sane Republicans and there are some nutjob Republicans. And you got 2 groups in the sane group. You got the group that's not going along with it, like you, but you got a whole lot of them that are. That just want to keep that crazy person there because they'll keep voting. Until the Republican Party returns to reality and y'all divorce yourself from the insanity. I never thought in 2021 I'd be talking about Jewish space lasers and on the United States Senate floor suggesting as a change or a solution for climate change that we should just move the moon's orbit. And now these kinds of conspiracy theories. I never thought that. Much less that it would have so much traction in a major political party. You can disagree with the AOCs and the Pelosi's and the everybody else all you want to about policy. But moving the moon is not in reality. Jewish space lasers are not in reality. This, getting a 4th audit and a 4th separate company ran by guys that are running in conspiracy theory circles to run an audit after the first 3 audits didn't give you the answer you wanted. That's not based in reality either. And this is an entire state's Republican Party. This is the leader of the Arizona Republican Senate. If you try to take over the GOP right now and run against Q, Those people aren't winning. That's the problem. This is the Arizona Republican Party. Some of the people on the far left are crazy too. Just happens to be that they haven't been elected into office yet. Let me know when they are, and then you can say both the parties are equal. I'm not saying there's not crazies on both sides. The difference is I'm not electing mine. Your party is. Hell, your former president was buying into this shit, spreading it, and leading it. So this is the Republican Party right now. You want to change it? Vote in the primaries. If you can't, go third party. I don't know what else to tell you, brother. But the more and more you support this, even though you and I get along great, I mean, this is the results we're getting. So we can't see what the cyber ninjas are actually, how they're looking for things. But can we at least find out what they're looking for? Arizona Republicans are hunting for bamboo-laced China ballots in the 2020 audit effort. There's an accusation that 40,000 ballots were flown into Arizona, stuffed into a box, and it came from the southeast part of the world, Asia. And what they're doing is to find out whether there's bamboo in the paper. I do think it's somewhat of a waste of time, but it will help unhinge people. This is an election official helping oversee this audit. They're not going to find bamboo. If they do, I think we need to know. Don't you? China, hell, all of Southeast Asia can make paper that doesn't have bamboo in it. But I'm glad that Cyber Ninja is here to make sure that the paper, that all the ballots in Arizona aren't made out of bamboo paper. Jesus. We have no evidence of ballots being made from bamboo. We have no evidence of 40,000 ballots from China. We have no evidence of ballots being shipped from Southeast Asia. We don't have evidence of even a sample from the company that would have made them over in Southeast Asia somewhere out of bamboo. But we're going to look for them. To, and I quote, help unhinge some people. Anybody who thinks that there's a company over in China or Southeast Asia making bamboo paper ballots, filling them out, flying them over to the United States, to Arizona, and slipping them in, and that somehow this got missed by 3 separate audits already, is going to need medication to become unhinged. They don't need Cyber Ninja to look for the bamboo. They need universal health care to go see a psychiatrist. Let me catch up with chat. Hardwood and Sock, I'm just saying if Trump is on the ticket in 2024, I won't vote for him, and depends who else is running if I like either of them. Progress, brother. Progress. Dash Mickey, I get that. I don't want to see Biden, or I don't want to see Biden again, but if Trump gets back in, I'm done with this country. I can understand the frustration. Likely Diamond, if you vote, hey, Likely Diamond, welcome in. If you vote blue rather than third party, your vote would help more in preventing the crazy orange man from getting elected. Biden is not running again. Didn't he say that he was a one-term president? I don't think it's 100% decided yet, but I think he leans back and forth on that depending on which day you ask him, essentially. I think really he's going to see how he feels at the end of this, term when election cycle comes around. Or maybe if the third party is more aligned with my stances, why shouldn't I vote for them? From Hardwood and Sock. It's hard to get a third party off the ground in this country with the way our election system is set up. But if you want to vote third party as a protest vote, or because you can't bring yourself to vote for a Democrat, I would rather vote as a protest vote for somebody that's sane over this shit. This is ridiculous. I can't believe we're actually having a conversation about it, to be honest with you. If this was just some guy making a documentary on his own, I wouldn't care. I mean, I can bring up all kinds of crazy people that don't have the backing of elected officials, but that's not what this is. Dash Mickey, that's one thing I can't stand about politics nowadays. It's all party over country, like being loyal to a football team. I want to see good for the country, not the party. I tend to agree with you. Hardwood and Sock, I understand that the third party vote thing, but if it's someone who I disagree with a lot, I couldn't actually vote for him. Same thing. But I'm not going to let perfection be the enemy of improvement either. So even if I don't agree with Biden on a lot of stuff, but he's a hell of a lot closer to where I want to be than Trump was. He's based in reality, right? Now, I pushed for Bernie hard, and then Elizabeth Warren as a second during the primary process. And I went and casted those votes, and I donated and everything else. But when I have a choice between sane and this shit, again, I'm not going to let perfection be the enemy of improvement. The problem you're having right now, I would guess, is that the wackos in a lot of cases are getting traction in your party or have won offices in your party. And the ones that are sane or that have policy agreements that, or policy positions that you agree with, aren't willing to call out the wackos because they're afraid the wackos are going to beat them. The time for silence is over. Follow. So what else is Cyber Ninja looking for? Watermarked ballots. They have UV lights, special scanners, supposedly, that are going to let them find whether the ballots in Arizona were watermarked or not, the mail-in ballots. The theory is that Trump had secretly watermarked mail-in ballots before the election so he could have evidence of widespread Democratic fraud. So basically, Trump somehow got all the mail-in ballots in Arizona with a special super secret watermark that you can't see unless you run it under a special light. And that if it doesn't have this watermark, then the ballot is fake. This conspiracy theory overlooks the fact that ballots are not produced by the federal government. USA Today interviewed the president and chief executive officer of Runbeck Election Services, the printing company that produced the most ballots for the 2020 election. There are many logistical feats that would make this conspiracy theory nearly impossible to execute, according to Mr. Ellington. He explained Trump could not have secretly watermarked ballots since they are designed by local and state governments and then outsourced to printers like his. On April 27th, Ellington confirmed Runbeck printed the ballots for Maricopa County. And he said there are no watermarks on these ballots, and there was no possibility the Trump administration could have added these watermarks without him knowing. The audit is being carried out by the Arizona Senate and Cyber Ninjas. Local officials said that they've seen no sign of watermarked ballots. But we're still going to look for them. Because why not? We'll ignore the fact that Trump doesn't design the ballots, Trump doesn't order the ballots, Trump didn't pay the people that printed the ballots, that it's all done at the state and local level. We'll ignore the fact that the guy who's the CEO of the company that did print the ballots said that it would have been basically impossible to watermark all of these ballots, and he wouldn't have listened to Trump anyway if Trump had asked, because Trump wasn't the one designing or paying for the ballots. That's done at the state and local level. But we need to look for it along with the bamboo paper ballots. Hardwood and Sock, I'm rolling for a bit. Got to go to the store. Hopefully you'll catch the end of this. Have a good stream. Thank you. Appreciate you being here, brother. Love you too. I need to catch your stream. I've been taking a break from everybody's. I've been taking a break from the political sphere for a while, aside from my show. I've just needed it. But I do greatly appreciate you being here, and I'll jump in your stream probably this coming week. So we can't know how you're going to examine these ballots, Cyber Ninja, because you fought that in court. We can't have reporters watch it. We can't have election officials watch it. The public can watch it, but from cameras that are about 20, 30 feet away and can't see any of the actual detail of what you're doing besides walking around or working on a computer. And you're spending Arizona taxpayer money, $150,000 plus private donations, which we'll get to in a bit, looking for ballots made out of bamboo, looking for ballots watermarked by a president who didn't have the authority or the ability to have them watermarked in the first place, and attempting to audit machines that you have no experience with, no certification saying you're qualified to work on, But we got to take your word on whatever you find. I'm starting to see why Democrats and President Biden and the Department of Justice think this smells just a little bit fishy. Just starting to see it. So now we have found out that some of these ballots have ended up in Montana. This month, local outlets like the Arizona Mirror learned that copies of some of the voting system data being analyzed, and that's a term that they're using very usefully, might not still be in Arizona at all. A report from CNN last week confirmed that the data had been shipped more than 1,000 miles away to Montana on a truck. They were sent to, quote unquote, a secure, powerful laboratory, which left a CNN reporter walking down a Montana road that contained a cabin, a barn, and a house.
Psoriatic arthritis made my joints stiff, swollen, painful.
Tremfya is approved to help reduce joint symptoms in adults with active psoriatic arthritis. Some patients even felt less fatigued.
Serious allergic reactions may occur. Tremfya may increase your risk of infections and lower your ability to fight them. Tell your doctor if you have an infection or symptoms, or if you had a vaccine or plan to.
Tremfya. Emerge Tremfyant. Janssen can help you explore cost support options.
The election audit in Maricopa County, Arizona is almost over. Nearly 2.1 million ballots have been counted by hand. NBCnews.com senior reporter Jane Tim has been covering this from the start. She's joining me now.
Oh, and of course, that's not the one I'm looking for.
Okay, so take us through this, Jane, because it seems as if you are saying these auditors are now.
What's the single worst thing about scooping your cat's litter box?
Scooping your cat's litter box.
That's right. Never scoop.
We'll ignore that commercial, but we've got it up now.
And get free shipping and a 90-day money-back guarantee. Stop scooping and order today at
Many of y'all need a litter box. Apparently, the litter robot's a thing.
On this piece of property in a remote part of Montana, people may at this very minute be analyzing voting data from the state of Arizona as part of the so-called Arizona Audit, run by the Cyber Ninjas, a company whose CEO had previously espoused Trump-style election conspiracy theories. What does Montana have to do with all this? Ken Bennett is a spokesman for the audit.
Everything that Cyber Ninjas is doing, they're either doing with their own expertise or the expertise of the people that they're hired.
And a contractor it hired is called Cipher LLC. Bennett says Cipher was permitted to take copies of Arizona voting system data on a truck and have it driven to Montana, where it's being, quote, forensically evaluated in what he described as a secure, powerful laboratory. but nobody is publicly saying what that actually means. And Bennett tells us he doesn't know where the so-called lab is. It is apparently a secret. So as you might expect, we're left wondering where in the state of Montana are the copies of this voting data being analyzed? Where is the secure, powerful lab? Here's what we found out. Cipher is a company that's based in Virginia, according to
Secure, powerful lab, and the spokesperson for the audit doesn't even know where it's at. So CNN had to go looking. Elaine, welcome in. Appreciate you being here. Donkey, has the MyPillow guy brought all his irrefutable evidence to court yet? I don't know. This one's going to be specific about the Arizona counts. To catch you up, they brought in the two companies that are qualified, federally certified to audit the Arizona election. Two independent companies. The only two in the country that are certified to audit Dominion election voting machines. Both of them came back and said, ain't nothing to see here. There's no viruses. The machines are functioning the way they're intended. The code that's on file with the federal government matches the code that's on the machines now. They were never connected to the internet. When we ran 1.5 million calculations through it, we came back with 0 errors. So they ran ballots through it till it had to do 1.5 million tabulations, and both of them came back with nothing. Well, then the Arizona GOP said, well, we need to do this by hand. So they had Democrats, Republicans, and Libertarians all there monitoring a box from each of the 26 locations pulled at random. They found 0 errors with that, and that's including mail-in ballots. So then they hired, or they said they were going to hire, Allied Security Operations Group. The owner of Allied Security Operations Group had already testified for Trump in court saying that this was all a fraud before ever looking at the machines or anything else. His Twitter was littered with tons of, hey, the election was stolen. Again, before he'd had a chance to look at any of the evidence. He's also making a quote-unquote documentary about how the election was stolen. Again, before looking at any of the evidence. The director of his documentary, their last movie was a movie about how aliens, I'm not making this shit up, aliens did 9/11, and Nazis had colonies on the moon. So the Arizona Senate GOP backed away from hiring Phil and Allied Security Operations Group and instead decided to go with Cyber Ninjas, a Florida-based firm. This firm, when you go to their website, has 0 information listed about providing services for auditing elections. They are not certified to audit elections. Their CEO also had a Twitter littered with "Stop the Steal," "The election's a fraud," statistical analysis confirms that the United States election and the Venezuelan election are identical, all that kind of stuff. He deleted his Twitter, but you can still find it archived. He also is included in the documentary from the previous guy as directed by the alien guy. So we literally have the conspiracy theorist in charge of trying to find the conspiracy. Shockingly, we did not do this for the 9/11 Commission. We didn't put the aliens did 9/11 guy in charge of finding out whether the aliens did 9/11. But this is where the bar has sunk to for the Republican Party in the state of Arizona. Cyber Ninjas has gone to court saying that you can't watch. Nobody can oversee their process or what they're doing. There's not going to be any explaining of their methodology. There's not going to be any Republicans and Democrats and libertarians watching their process. There's not going to be any reporters watching their process. They do have cameras up, so you can go to their website and watch the whole thing live, and we'll bring that up in a minute. The cameras are about 20, 30 feet away, up in the very corner of a gym, and you can see people moving around in coffee cups and stuff like that, but you can't see what's on the paper or the ballots or what they're doing or what they're typing on the computers or any of that kind of stuff. So it's theater. Cyber Ninjas has confirmed that they are looking for ballots made out of bamboo that were sent in from Southeast Asia to influence the election. They have confirmed that they are looking for watermarked ballots because apparently President Trump could have special ordered these. And they have also confirmed that they made backup copies of all the voting data and ballots and everything else. And they handed it off to this other firm that apparently has a super secret lab in Montana, which CNN has managed to find. Elaine, maybe fraud didn't happen, but something is wrong with American election, or maybe American politicians just can't take a loss. Hillary said the election was rigged too. Learn to take a loss. There's a difference between saying the election is rigged and that there's a foreign country spreading propaganda. I don't recall Hillary ever saying that there were fake ballots sent in by China and that Dominion voting systems were miscounting ballots and all that kind of stuff. Now, if Russia was running ads, or if Trump had said China was running ads on Facebook, that's a whole different thing than, you know, they're making ballots out of bamboo paper and shipping them over here. At least it is to me. One's a whole level of degree further. But yes, I agree. They need to learn how to take a loss. Donkey, thanks for the recap. My question was purely in jest. I'm wondering just how long dead horses actually live for. This audit's results aren't back yet. And I use audit in the loosest sense of the word. So anyway, you're welcome for the recap. And let's jump back into what CNN found in Montana.
To its website. But Cypher was spun off and is a sister company of a company called SciTech. And SciTech, according to its website, is based in Montana. Here we are right now, south of the city of Big Fork. More interestingly, SciTech and Cypher are run by the same exact person. And that person, we're told, is the man who drove in a truck the copies of the voting information from Arizona to Montana. So this property where SciTech, according to the website, is located also happens to be, according to records, where the CEO lives, his residence. So could the information be here? We could tell you as we walk up here, the first thing you see on this big piece of land is a sign. Private property, trespassing for any purpose is strictly forbidden, violators will be prosecuted. So we can't cross this area. We can show you, though, from this area what looks like a cabin on this property. Is this the secure, powerful laboratory? Is Arizona voting data inside that cabin? We just don't know, but it could be.
And the defense.
The boss who drove the truck to Montana, according to the audit spokesman, is Ben Cotton, who testified in a special meeting at the Arizona Capitol last month.
I personally have over 25 years of computer forensics and incident response experience.
We reached out to Cotton to ask him about what kind of analysis is taking place, and is his lab on his property. He did not respond. So we did some further investigating from the air, and we see that in addition to the building that looks like a cabin, there is on the right a large house in the clearing, and on the left what looks like a barn, and perhaps some trailers, but no people. A real estate website shows what appears to be that large house, and it all sits on 155 acres of land. So there is plenty of space here for a lab, and plenty of privacy for the boss.
You can't make this.
Arizona's Democratic Secretary of State says she's very...
So the lab is underground. The entrance to the lab is in the cabin. There's actually a security force in there provided by the aliens to keep the Democrats from finding out where it is. I mean, I can make up shit too. But this is where we're at, guys. This is the audit that Democrats, and now it's turning out some Republicans in the state of Arizona are having a problem with. Elaine, if CNN found it, it must not be that secret. Good one. Yeah. Melon on the Shelf. What are we watching? That was where the copies of all the Arizona voting information, ballots and such, were sent to a secret, powerful laboratory, according to the spokesman for the Arizona 4th audit, run by the conspiracy theorists now. And if you think I'm not being generous with that word, or if you think I'm being too generous with the word conspiracy theorist, go back to the beginning and you will see these guys are out there. Elaine, how could the aliens afford a security force? Lealry, so aliens support the Democrats? Apparently. I don't know. I'm just trying to make up an excuse for how that's a super secret, powerful laboratory for the Arizona Republicans who are running the audit claiming that it is. I'm not the one that's saying that it is. So some of the mistakes that have come up. And why it might be important to have a company that is, I don't know, experienced, qualified, certified, and running election audits actually do an audit. First, you don't end up with an entire state's worth of election data sitting in some guy's cabin in the middle of Montana. That would be number one. Number two, a judge has already ruled and had to step in and say, you can't use blue and black pens when you're going over these ballots. Because people vote with blue and black pens. People mark things with blue and black pens. According to election law, you're only supposed to use red. But cyber ninjas didn't know this. As I mentioned earlier, cyber ninjas is using UV lights to scan ballots for evidence of the fraud. Experts at the Brennan Center for Justice, who cover all things elections, including election fraud, and have for decades now, say it could actually cause the paper ballots to deteriorate. So that would not be a good thing, obviously. And then, of course, Logan, the CEO of Cyber Ninjas, is receiving further help from Jovan Pulitzer, a celebrity among election fraud conspiracy theorists and inventor of the QCAT, which will be irrelevant to this. Jovan Pulitzer, I have covered before on this show. That's the guy that went up to the Georgia State Senate and said that he could prove election fraud because one of the polling locations had a TV that connected to the Wi-Fi. And somehow that proved election fraud. Had nothing to do with any election machines connecting to the Wi-Fi. Had nothing to do with any ballots being altered or changed, had nothing to do with any Chinese sending in machines to, calculate differently. The time for silence is over. Thank you for the follow, Elaine. I appreciate it. Jovan Pulitzer is a failed inventor. That's why you probably haven't heard of the Q-Cat. And at best, a treasure hunter. At worst, a conspiracy theorist. So, again, because I like to make, provide proof of that, I don't want to just call a guy a conspiracy theorist and be unfair. This is Jovan Pulitzer a few years ago.
I understand you're ready to show the rest of the deck here.
Right. This is about history. And the bottom of this hole is going to be some of the most important pieces of treasure to mankind. We're talking about the Ark of the Covenant.
The Ark of the Covenant? The gold chest, which according to the Old Testament contained the actual 10 Commandments? Although there is some debate about whether or not the Ark actually existed, many scholars believe that if it did, it was most likely destroyed, along with everything else, when the first...
So we're going to pause for just a second in case YouTube caught that, because I'll have to cut it out after the live stream. Jovan Pulitzer. There's no proof that the Ark of the Covenant actually existed, but he found it. No, he didn't. Just like there's no proof of this massive multi-statewide election fraud conspiracy theory bullshit, but Jovan Pulitzer's going to find that one for you too, the same way he found the Ark of the Covenant a few years back. And this is who Cyber Ninjas, the company running this fourth audit now, is asking for help with running their audit. Nobody is going to take your audit seriously when it is surrounded and filled with people and conducted by people who think that aliens did 9/11, that the Nazis had a base on the moon back in like 1945, and that they can find the Ark of the Covenant. You don't need more time. You don't need more money. You need medication. You need universal health care. So this has finally become too much for some Republicans in Arizona. Newly elected recorder of Maricopa County, Republican, unseated the incumbent Democrat and won the office in the 2020 election on the promise that he would make the recorder's office boring again. 5 reasons he's against this audit. Fan, that's the GOP Senate leader in Arizona, Republican, accused his office under his control of unlawful activity. So reason number 1 why this Republican is against this audit is because the finger's pointed at him now. Why do I have to wait until it affects you personally for you to call this shit batshit crazy. I mean, better late than never, I guess, but self-preservation at its finest. Lealry, I apologize if I'm saying that wrong. Welcome. Conspiracy theories only serve to not be able to know the truth. A conspiracy theory, once it gains sufficient evidence, isn't a conspiracy theory anymore. It's historical fact. This stuff is nowhere close to meeting that burden. Nowhere close. Reason number 2. The audit is premised on a lie. The current governor agrees. The former Republican governor, Jan Brewer, agrees. The Republican Attorney General agrees. Trump's entire Department of Justice, including former Attorney Bill Barr, former Acting Attorney General Jeffrey Rosen, Trump's Department of Homeland Security, and even Sidney Powell herself, again, the lady that, was going to launch the Kraken lawsuit, is now saying in court, no reasonable person would have believed that crazy shit that I said. Maricopa County has used the same election services vendors and most of the same employees for more than 20 years. Team oversaw Maricopa County's vote for Trump in 2016, for Mitt Romney in 2012, for John McCain in 2008, for George Bush in 2004. It administered the continued Republican control of the Arizona State Legislature in 2020, as well as this guy's victory against the incumbent Democrat. Ricky the Great One, hey, welcome in, brother. Welcome in. I appreciate you being here. My man, too. Yes, she is trying the Tucker Carlson defense. No reasonable person would believe this stuff. To me, that statement right there that the Republican county recorder made is kind of the most damning thing about all of the conspiracies related to the election fraud supposed in 2020, right? If you really, honestly, let me put my tinfoil hat on here for a minute, and I should have had one, ready. But if you really honestly believe that, there's all these fake ballots that were sent in, or that the Dominion voting machines mistabulated all of this stuff because of some virus, or China manufactured, 40,000 ballots out of bamboo paper, or, that hundreds of thousands of ballots weren't actual real ballots because they weren't watermarked by President Trump. If you honestly believe this, do you think that the super secret Democrats that were sitting in a room somewhere filling all these things out, or the machines that were switching the votes, could only do it for the presidential race? This guy, the Republican county recorder, beat the Democrat he was running against that was already in office. Did they just forget to check that box? Or was the bamboo paper cut the wrong way? Or did the virus in the machines that nobody can find only affect the presidential race? And the rest of the lower races, just forget about those? Is it too difficult, assuming you can do a massive multi-statewide conspiracy to commit election fraud for president, assuming you had those, hundreds of people involved, maybe thousands, right? If you've got that many people all working together, is it too difficult for them to just fill out Democrat straight down the ballot? They can only do one at the top? Like, this conspiracy theory stuff doesn't even make sense from inside of it when I put on the hat, the tinfoil hat, right? I do not understand how people are still in this and thinking this way. Elaine, I believe people double voted, but that's it. But people double vote in every election. There are some people isolated that, sure, cast 2 ballots. I know we had a Trump supporter that cast one for himself and one for his dad. I think it was in Ohio recently. But the historical rate of voter fraud is like 0.0009%, right? We're talking about, you have like if you and I walk to the polling stations together, there's a better chance that I'm going to get struck by lightning than commit voter fraud, and there's a better chance you're going to get struck by lightning than commit voter fraud. I mean, we're talking about something that's historically doesn't happen, not a concern, right? You can find an isolated incident here or there, just like you can find a story about a guy that got struck by lightning. Sure, it happens, but that's not what we're talking about here. We're talking about massive, multiple state, coordinated, dozens of counties, dozens to hundreds of polling locations, thousands of ballots, election fraud, if you want to put on the tinfoil hat. That's an entirely different thing than, this guy in Ohio filled out 2 ballots because his dad died and he knew how his dad was going to want to vote, right? Don't get me wrong. That guy gets in trouble for election fraud, absolutely, and deserves it. And same thing for any Democrat that would do that. But that's entirely different than there's a multi-state conspiracy theory here. And you and I both know it's different, and anybody that's watching knows it's different, because I don't see the GOP out there saying we need to erect lightning rods from everybody's house to the polling locations to make sure they can vote, to keep the election safe, right? This is an entirely different level of craziness. And the fact that the Arizona GOP and the Senate leader for that GOP in Arizona is going along with it shows you just how far down we've gotten. Codename Astro, oh my God, the bamboo trace stuff is the one that makes me cackle out loud like Hillary. I don't think I've seen you in here before. Welcome. I greatly appreciate you dropping by. If you think that's the good one, wait till if you get a chance, go check it out on YouTube. Go back to the beginning of the episode. The first company they hired to do this. The time for silence is over. Leowry, thank you for the follow. The first company they hired to do this, the guy's making a movie about how all of this is, or how all the election was stolen. And the guy he's working with to make the movie literally made a movie about how aliens did 9/11. The CEO of Cyber Ninja, who's doing the current audit, and I use that term as loose as possible, is involved in the movie with the guy who made the aliens did 9/11 movie. The guy who's helping this guy do the audit thinks that he can find the Ark of the Covenant. I mean, it's conspiracy theorist all the way down. Ricky the Great One, logistically, it would have been impossible to have that many people involved and keep a secret. I mean, anyone in a small town can tell you how quickly secrets get around. What kills me about it, if you've got that many people involved, the time for silence is over. Thank you for the follow, Codename Astro. I greatly appreciate it. What kills me about it is if you have that many people involved, and again, we're talking like thousands to hundreds of thousands of ballots here, right? Nobody's got a phone with a camera on the back of it. Nobody's got an email that's, provable. Nobody's got nothing. It's just, at best, it's these anonymous stories about, oh, well, yeah, I found a bag unmarked and all that kind of stuff. It's crazy stuff. It's all unverifiable. And it's all just you wait. I have the proof. It's coming any day now. Let me know when you get past somebody coming forward saying they have the proof, when somebody actually puts the proof on the table. Because I've heard the checks in the mail before. And now that we've heard it about 12 to 100 times, I don't believe you anymore. Either produce the damn check or shut up. Codename Astro, most double voting isn't intentional either. It's like when somebody moves between early ballots and election day. I agree with that. Elaine, History Channel does dumb stuff to keep you watching. Yeah, the History Channel has gone to hell since I was a kid. Codename Astro, we'll check it out. I need a good laugh. Dude, it's bad. This rabbit hole, I scraped the surface and it just keeps going down. You can go to the YouTube channel and catch it from the start, or you can go to the website, theleftspeaks.com, and catch it from there. It'll be on the opening page. Elaine, like Ancient Aliens is entertaining but goofy. Yeah, but now we've got the Ancient Aliens guys running an election audit. I mean, that's a big line to cross. It's one thing if somebody wants to sit around, have a few beers, smoke whatever they want to smoke, and watch Ancient Aliens and knows it's all a laugh, I don't care. It's not my kind of show, not my kind of good time, but hey, do you. To each their own. You're not hurting anybody. But if you want to elect people that are going to put the Ancient Aliens guys in charge of auditing an election, get the fuck out of here. Ricky the Great One, personally, I hope they waste as much money as possible on this just to split the fiscal conservatives from the party. I don't think the fiscal conservatives are going to split from the party. So we're about to dive into that, okay? The majority of this funding isn't coming from the Arizona GOP. Elaine, Hillary's got an email. Ricky the Great One, that show, referring to Ancient Aliens, is only good high. I will take your word for it, my friend. But that's what I have heard. Back to objection number 3 from the Republican Maricopa County recorder, newly elected in 2020. Choosing the cyber ninjas was incredibly inappropriate. I think we have established that. I'm not going to read through his reasoning. If you're associated with the Ancient Aliens guy and the, hey, I can find the Ark of the Covenant guy, and you already believe that the election's a fraud and fake before you ever review any of the data, yeah, I'm going to call that inappropriate too. Number 4, we need to accept individual responsibility as Republicans. The individual responsibility, Mr. County Recorder for Maricopa County, Mr. Republican County Recorder for Maricopa County. The individual responsibility that you need to accept is that you voted for a president who started this baseless lie. You have courted these voters and supported these election fraud lies consistently as a party. The only reason, and the number one reason you gave for coming out against this audit is not because it's all a bunch of bullshit. It's not because it's based on conspiracy theories. It's not because the election was safe and sound and secure as verified by Trump's own Department of Justice, Department of Homeland Security. No, the number one reason you gave for coming out against this audit is because other Republicans pointed the finger at you. The individual responsibility you need to accept, sir, is that you need to put your country in front of yourself. You don't need to wait until you're going to be personally affected to do what's right for the country. And reason number 5, Republican Party turnout will suffer. Good. Elaine, ancient astronaut theorists believe the election was stolen. Yeah, I know. It's sad. Ricky the Great One, we already know where the Ark of the Covenant is. It's in Ethiopia. I'll take your word on it. I don't even know that the thing exists. But one of the guys involved in this whole election fraud conspiracy theory nut stuff was literally on the History Channel saying he'd found it. Matt Masterson. It's an audit in name only, says Masterson, a former Department of Homeland Security official who helped lead the federal government's election security preparations leading up to the November election. So Trump's DHS official is a threat to the overall confidence of democracy, all in pursuit of continuing a narrative that we know to be a lie. By lie, he means the assertion from former President Donald Trump and some of his allies that election fraud cost him a second term in the White House. Another Republican. Maricopa County Board of Supervisors. And this will be listed on the YouTube channel as a source. The Republican Board of Supervisors in Maricopa County supervising their election, predominantly Republican members. I think there's still one Democratic member. And their response to the GOP Arizona Senate Majority Leader. Sent and signed by every member. Jack Sellers, chairman. Bill Gates, not that one, vice chairman. Steve Churchree, supervisor for District 2. Clint Hickman. Steve Gallardo, that's our one Democrat, supervisor for District 5. Stephen Richer, Maricopa County Recorder. Paul Penzone, Maricopa County Sheriff. As one example, I'm going to pull out of here of how the Arizona State GOP is lying to you at this point. There was question 2. Your second question, this is referring back to the Senate leader. The bags in which the ballots were stored are not sealed. Although the audit team has found at the bottom of many boxes cut seals of the type that would have sealed a ballot bag. Why were these seals placed at the bottom of the boxes? So the allegation here is that the bags holding all the ballots were not sealed. The response, the bags in which the election day ballots were stored were sealed, and the seals that you found at the bottom of the boxes came off those bags. They're transported by bipartisan teams from vote centers in tamper-evident sealed black canvas bags. Below are examples used to transport, both long and short term. This whole document goes through step by step answering all of the Republican GOP's questions, quote unquote, about why they have quit, why they have stopped working with this audit with cyber ninjas at Maricopa County. Now, to go into Ricky's question that he brought up, why is this going on and where's the money coming from? So Arizona itself is only paying $150,000 for this audit, quote unquote audit. But obviously it's going to cost a whole lot more. So where's the money coming from? Okay. It's coming from a bunch of dark money groups, quote unquote. And this is why these people are doing this and going along with this. $150,000 of the probe's funding has come from Voices and Votes, a 501c3 run by Christina Bobb, an anchor for One American News Network. Gee, they're definitely unbiased. They're telling you the truth there. Patrick Byrne, the former CEO of Overstock.com, is also leading a group funding of the effort. Byrne's nonprofit, the America Project, launched a Fund the Audit campaign aiming to raise $2.8 million. Byrne says he contributed $1 million. Take his word for it. But at least another $900,000 has come from unknown sources. So potentially $900,000 in donations grifted from people who are buying into this conspiracy theory bullshit. Byrne also served as a CEO of another dark money group involved in the review, Defending the Republic. He claims he resigned in April for that one. Created by Powell. Gee, we've heard that name before. Powell's group also previously hired Wake Technology Services as a subcontractor. Here's a donation group created by the New Hampshire Voter Integrity Group for a New Hampshire forensic audit on Give, Send, Go, the #1 Christian crowdfunding site, to bring Jovan Pulitzer, the guy that can find the Ark of the Covenant, to New Hampshire to do the same kind of audit that we're currently conducting in Arizona. The goal was to raise $50,000. The campaign has received or raised $75,415. Here's the America Project. The lowest suggested donation is $25. The highest suggested donation is $1,000. You can set up recurring donations if you want to. Here's the payment portal to fundtheaudit.com. They're a little bit cheaper at $10. Half the price of the other company. It's a good savings. And this is One American News, your conservative news network.
The Arizona Senate is taking action and actually doing something about the corruption. Pennsylvania, Georgia, Wisconsin, they'll be next. But what about Oklahoma and Texas and Missouri? It's easy to wag our fingers at the problem state saying, you let this corruption affect our nation. But what are you doing about your own state? Arizona is just the beginning, and they need our help as much as we need their audit results. The audit is dangerously underfunded. If you can support the audit, I humbly ask you to do so. Chanel Rion and I started an organization, Voices and Votes, to help raise funds for this audit. You can visit voicesandvotes.org and donate. We're sending all of the proceeds, regardless of which fund you select, to the Arizona election.
This is a news show. News telling you live on air to donate to a charity run by the anchor. We've got $75,000 donated to a conspiracy theorist who thought he found the Ark of the Covenant on the History Channel to try to do an election fraud audit in New Hampshire. New Hampshire. We've got $900,000 donated to one of these other groups. They're all connected in together, and it's a nice little conspiracy theory grift. Do you want to know what this is really about? You don't need to follow the ballots. You don't need to look for bamboo paper. You don't need to look for special super secret watermarks. Just follow the money. It's all a con. There's a reason the results are just around the corner. There's a reason. If you fund my search this time, I promise I will find the Loch Ness Monster for you and provide the proof of the ancient aliens. And I'll find the election fraud while I'm at it. These people are taking advantage of you if you believe this actually happened. There's a reason their movie, directed by the Aliens Did 9/11 guy, is scheduled to come out whenever the Arizona Audit is complete. They're just using this as one big advertising trailer. In fact, if you want to screen that movie for your church, you can sign up for a private screening for only $500. Or if you want to screen it for your friends and family, you can sign up early for only $500 to screen that movie. Now, I'm not upset that the people like this actually exist. We've had con artists and grifters and snake oil salesmen since probably the beginning of time. What I am disappointed about is that the Republican Party for the state of Arizona gave these people legitimacy. Gave them $150,000 and an air of legitimacy to run a supposed audit. After the first 3 audits didn't come back with the answer they wanted. This would be no different than if the 9/11 Commission came back saying it wasn't aliens, and then we hired another company and they came back and said it wasn't aliens that did 9/11, and then we had a bipartisan commission with Republicans, Democrats, Libertarians, Green parties, Socialist Party of America, any party you want, pick them all of them, everybody. And they came back and said it wasn't aliens that did 9/11. But then we decided to put these guys in charge of an audit to make sure that it wasn't aliens that did 9/11. Republicans, you should be ashamed of this. And y'all should be the ones screaming the loudest to get this stopped. not waiting until it affects you, like the Maricopa County recorder did. On that note, we have a special guest that's going to sum this up for us on the way out. And then we're going to wrap up after that. For everybody who dropped in, new, old, recurring viewers, and for those of y'all who watch this after it's all done, I greatly appreciate you being here, and I greatly appreciate you watching it afterwards. As always, the number is toll-free anytime I'm live. I am live every Sunday, 2 to 4 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. If we need to go over that time frame, we will. For our special guest speaker, he's going to present 4 options for why people are buying into this. And I think they're pretty valid options. And for those of y'all who watch on YouTube after the fact, I'm probably going to have to cut it off at the end. But I thought it was worth including live. Everybody else, thank you for being here.
Some people are really fucking stupid. Did you ever notice that? How many really stupid people you run into during the day? God damn, there's a lot of stupid bastards walking around. Carry a little pad and pencil with you. You wind up with 30 or 40 names by the end of the day. Look at it this way. Think of how stupid the average person is, and then realize half of them are stupider than that. And it doesn't take you very long to spot one of them, does it? Take you about 8 seconds. You'll be listening to some guy. You say, this guy is fucking stupid. Then there are some people, they're not stupid, they're full of shit. That doesn't take very long to spot either, does it? Take you about the same amount of time. You'll be listening to some guy and say, well, he's fairly intelligent. He's full of shit. Then there are some people, they're not stupid, they're not full of shit, they're fucking nuts. Dan Quayle is all three. All three. Stupid, full of shit, and fucking nuts.
The time for silence is over.
Just tell me what I need to know. Where is it?
There was once an unprecedented time in American history when common citizens of their day began to define the rights of man and documented how those rights were being violated by their current government. They wrote to each other. They debated with each other. Ultimately, it was these common citizens who recorded these rights for all eternity, and furthermore created a new and free nation founded on these rights with liberty and justice for all of its citizens. Times have changed, but these rights remain.
I don't take responsibility.
That all citizens have the right to life. That all citizens have the right to pursue happiness. That all citizens are created equal. That all citizens have the right to a public trial. That all citizens have the right to peacefully assemble. That all citizens have the right to petition their government. What happens when you try to exercise these rights today. Is this government honoring your rights? Or are they violating them? Is this the government that those citizens aspired to? There is a solution.
I don't take responsibility. I don't take responsibility. I don't take responsibility.
Join me every Sunday afternoon for a new show where common citizens, you and I together, discuss with each other issues of today, where we demand proof and evidence is required, where we seek the truth and will not be silent. Join me this coming Sunday afternoon and take part in America's oldest and most honored tradition.